let's just do some like fun little tier lists because I have nothing else to do. I was thinking about making a tier list of how fun killers are to play in comp. And I thought it would just be fun to like discuss like why some killers are like considered really fun while other killers are like considered not. Like you guys probably wouldn't consider I feel like you say Doc. I think Doc is very unfun in public games, but I actually think like Doc is really really fun in comp. I'm gonna take my opinion to this like really heavily, but also I'm gonna like take everybody else's opinion. So like my killer opinion is probably gonna be different than some other people's, and like that is probably gonna like take precedence over my own opinion. Overall comp games that are fun, I'm taking into 4 factors: fun to play against, fun to watch, fun to cast. Those 4 factors. These are in alphabetical order. Like that's just the order that it put itself in. You know, like artist is at top, Xeno is at bottom. So we're just gonna start and work our way from the top to bottom. I personally, and like I believe what the community thinks, artist is a fun killer in comp. She is very miserable to play against in public games because she's like a really strong anti-loot power, and in public games they can have really annoying perks for artists like Dead Man Switch with Pain Resonance. So it's very very hard to do generators. Like her power just couples with like some perks that makes her really really annoying. But in comp games, like Demon Switch is banned. You can't have like all those like really annoying things. So I think artist is a very macro killer, and that she's always put on like maps like Azeroth's Resting Place, where it's like a split map. It's like a bone shape. You know, it's got like the bigger sides, and then like the middle is like a strip. I think it's very fun to play because it requires so much coordination from like the survivors that I think it's just like it really showcases how well a team can be when they go against an artist. I just think that's so fun. It's fun to watch. It's fun to play. All around, I think artist is like a good killer pick in comp games. It is really interesting. I don't think anybody's going to be surprised. Public games are horrible. Nobody ever picks this killer. Like his power isn't strong enough that you can play chases very much. Like you just basically get your first down and then you camp. And then you get like 6 stages. It's really boring and not fun to watch, and it's not fun to play because he's not strong, and it's not really interactive for either side. Then we got Blight. Blight is peak. Blight games are so fun. They are so interactive. They are so fun. This is the strongest killer in comp. Without a doubt, he is the strongest. He's getting an add-ons nerf, but you know, like maybe it'll be nerfed. I don't know. We'll have to see how he is like after in like comp, but like right now he is peak. He is so fun to watch. He is so fun to play. As a killer, he's really fun to play because he's very fast paced. He's very strong. He's very fun for survivors to play too because they get a lot less perk restrictions, so they have a lot of stuff, and he's just very interactive. Like his chase is like super fun, and it's super macro, and I love watching these games. He is picked all the time. This is like the most popular pick for everybody and like every tournament, everything, because he's just so fun and he's interactive and he's great time. Cenobite is kinda, I'm gonna say he's mid. He's not like, he's okay, so I think he's fun to watch, but sometimes the balancing in some tourneys is very boring, because I think if Original Pain, the purple add-on, if that's allowed, he's very unfun. But if that's not allowed, then he's fun. So it's kind of like the middle area. It's literally dependent on that add-on, because Original Pain, what it does is that when you chain somebody and they break the chains, I don't remember like what specifics like it requires, but if you break the chains, you go into mend. And that just makes it so easy to tunnel off hook, and it's very uninteractive and it's kind of boring. But I think like Pinhead's game, the pacing of the games is actually really fun because the survivors have like an added objective, right? They have the box they have to do in order to prevent the chain hunt, which is like actually really, really kind of important to do. So like, I think like the games are very interesting. They're very fun to watch. I think from the survivors, you have to be very coordinated. His power is kind of like obnoxious at some points, especially with Impaling Wire, which like every tourney allows, because like if you don't have Impaling Wire, he's not very easy to play at all. So you kind of need to have Impaling Wire. So like his power can be kind of annoying, but I think like macro wise, he's kind of fun. So like he's mid. Like he's not like he's not the most fun thing, but he's not horrible. Yeah, he's just perfectly mid. Clown is unfun. He is an M1 killer, so he's not like totally horrible, but his power is just kind of like whatever, and he's not strong, so he's not particularly fun to play. So he's in the unfun category just because he's like, he doesn't have a whole lot to him. You know, he's like a very basic M1 killer, and his power is just like whatever. It's not like crazy easy to outplay, so it's not very fun for survivors. Not very fun to play, not very fun to play against. You know, like I don't think very much has to be said. He's just unfun. Deathslinger, I'm actually like kind of conflicted. He's not peak. He's either fun or he's mid. I'm gonna be honest. I'm very, very conflicted about where I'm gonna put him. I think his game, like the games of Deathslinger, are very fun, but I think his chases are very mid. So like he's kind of. Okay. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put him in fun because people pick him a lot, so people must think he's fun. But I know a lot of people who don't like him, who would put him in like mid. I think people would put him in unfun, to be honest. But I'm gonna put him in fun because he gets picked a lot. Because his map all the time is usually like Suffocation Pit, which is like also a split map. So it's like very macro heavy from the survivors and macro heavy from like the killer. And I think that's very fun. Macro play is like the most fun thing you could do in comp. And he's very fun to play because if you can get really good shots up on the survivor, it's so incredibly satisfying. He's got an incredibly high skill cap that like survivors also can learn to play against, and it can be really fun to like dodge out and be like really successful. So like his chase can be fun, but it also could be frustrating. So I'm gonna personally put him in fun. Maybe a lot of people would disagree with that, but I just think he's fun. You know, I love watching the Deathslinger games. I love casting Deathslinger games, and I love just like seeing like really cool interactive chases. So I'm gonna put him in fun. I don't know if other people will say anything, but he's fun. All right, we're gonna go to Demogorgon. He is, I kind of think he's peak. I'm gonna go ahead and put him in peak. Demogorgon, he's very basic. He's got a very basic hit. And you know, like his balancing is very, very basic as well. Because he's not strong. He's an M1 killer, but he also has like a good chase power. Like his chase power is like, it's so basic. Like he just attacks in a fucking line. He just goes, meow. But it's like really fun and interactive, and like you play tiles different. And yeah, he's not like horrible for the survivors to play against because he's very basic. Everybody knows exactly how he goes. And he's just like an M1 killer. And I think M1 killer games with like killers that are very, you know, basic, I think they're fun to play because it's all dependent on like survivor macro. Like, can you take body block hits? Can you go for pallet saves? Can you go for flashlight saves? Can you go for 1-for-1s? I love the interaction of comp at like that kind of very base level. So I think he's peak. He's great. He's great to pick. He's great to play. I love watching like games like this. You can definitely tell like what teams are very, very good based on the results they get out of like an M1 killer. Because like the balancing is very restrictive. You get very little, like you don't get like any second chance perks. You don't get deli, you don't get dead hard, you don't get DS, you don't get like deliverance, you don't get unbreakable. You just have to play very basic level, and the team who is better will come out on top. Because like the killer doesn't have like such an unfair, unfun chase mechanic, right? And he's always put on cool tower, which is like, it's very repetitive and it's not like too surprising. Like sometimes you get really, really bad RNG, but it's still demo. Like even if you get like a 5 generators that are close to you on one side, like it's still hard to defend like generators like that as an M1 killer. So I like him. He's peak. I think he's fun. You know, you get exhaustions versus weaker killers. See, yeah, but that's what I love because it's not dependent on perks. Like the game isn't dependent on if you get your balance landing or you get your lithe or you get your sprint burst. It's all dependent on the skill level of all the players. And I love that. That is peak DPD comp. Doctor, yeah, he's also peak. He is also peak. Everybody loves picking him. They love playing him. He's very basic as well. He's just good. He's fun to watch. He's fun to play. I love it. Doctor is kind of in the same boat as Demo. Like, they're very basic. They have very restrictive balancing. It's all dependent on the skill of all the players. All right, Dredge. I think a lot of people love this killer, but I'm gonna put him in mid. Like, I personally do not like Dredge games. I do not. Because it's so boring. His power is not interactive. His map is mid-witch. He's just, every game like goes the same. It's so difficult to not get 4K'd won by Dredge. It is like almost every single game I have ever seen with a Dredge is a 4K1. Like there's just no deviating from it. Because like, Dredge is on mid-witch. Mid-witch is, unsafe pallets against dredge or extraordinarily safe pallets. And the way to play a dredge match is to prevent the first hit as much as possible, because he gets his nightfall. Like, you use add-ons that like increases your nightfall when people are injured. So like the first injury happening is like horrible. So what do in a dredge match is you just go around throwing all the extraordinarily safe pallets, and then like you just delay the first hit as much as possible, and the longer you delay it, the easier it is to 4K1. And you just tunnel at the first person, because it's easy, because you teleport to anywhere on the map. And yeah, you just do that, and then like you get down to the last 3 survivors, and there's 1 gen left because it takes you fucking forever to tunnel because there's so many safe pallets. And then you just got like Eruption or Jolt or Surge, whatever you call it. And then the last survivors can't do the last generator because you got Slappy Butcher. You're just hitting running. You're just slacking the gens, and like it's Midwich. So all the resources are used, all the good ones at least. And like it's just boring. I don't like dredge matches. Like it's 4K1 like almost every time. If the survivors are good enough to make the killer fuck up, then yeah, it's like, wow, great, you did it. It's not even satisfying. Like I think like I'm not putting him in horrible, because I think once the first survivor is dead, and then you're trying to do like all this macro like managing of like the 3 survivors in the end, making it so they don't pop the last gen, that's kind of fun. Like as like a survivor, because you guys are like communicating a lot and it's a lot of like coordination. And then from the killer, it's kind of fun as well, because you're playing like heavy macro, like in your mind, you're trying to keep track of like what all 3 survivors are doing at once. It's kind of fun, but like the first half of the match is so unbelievably unfun. It's so unfun until it gets to that point, but then it's kind of fun afterwards. So he's just mid, right? Like he's middle of the road. I don't really like dredge. Like his power is boring, but the macro can be kind of fun. Freddy is horrible. He's just horrible. Nobody likes him. Nobody picks him. He sucks. I don't know if there's anything I really need to talk about. Nobody ever picks him because he's not good. He's like Clown, but not as good. So like, it's just boring. I don't know. There's just so many other good killers. I want to see Eternity of Freddy versus Perkler Survivors and Hawkins just to fuck with people. See, that would be kind of fun to watch, but like, oh, man, it's just, I'm just gonna say, he's just horrible in comp. Like, nobody ever picks him. I can't remember the last time I watched a comp Freddy match. Like, they don't do that. All right, Ghostface? I'm gonna go ahead and say this. This is controversial. I think Ghostface is peak. And I don't want to, like, he's hard. He's very hard. Because a stealth M1 killer gets, like, the most restrictions out of, like, any kind of killer in the game. Because they're stealth, so you can't have reset perks, and they are M1s, so you can't have second chances, and most of the exhaustions are banned. I love Ghostface games. I love them. They are super, super fun to watch, because you have to be so good at Survivor that, like, the coordination you see from teams that happen against Ghostface is super interesting. If you guys have never, like, listened to Survivors while they're in a call, like, while they're playing against a Ghostface, it's, like, it's constant comms. Because you need to know if he's stealthing, because that's the whole mind game with Ghostface. You are unpredictable. And it's so fun to watch, because, like, as soon as they lose eyes, they're like, no eyes, we don't know where he is. He's gone stealth. We don't know. So everybody's, like, calming. Everybody's being stealthy. It's kind of, like, tedious to play from a survivor's perspective. So I think if I was going to, like, categorize Ghostface just from, like, the survivor's play, I might put him in mid, because, like, it really is dependent on if you're a good team or not. If you're a bad team, he is horrible. Like, if you have no coordination between, like, your teammates, he's horrible to play against. But if you're very, very, like, connected with your teammates, you guys have just the best chemistry, he had his peak gameplay. And he's fun to play, too, because, like, also, he's just very macro-heavy. And macro-heavy is fun to play in comp, because it's more, it like, gets rid of most of the frustrating parts of Dead by Daylight, like, pre-dropping really safe pallets, like, that's kind of frustrating. But, like, Ghostface is generally on Larry's, and there's only a few safe pallets, and you know exactly where they are, because Larry's is a very static map. Like, there's always going to be a safe pallet in the study. There's always going to be safe pallets on the opposite of TV room. There's also going to be a safe pallet in, I don't know what room it's called. It's got, like, a bunch of, like, cots. It's like a big room that's got, like, a bunch of beds. It's got, like, a really safe pallet in the middle. You know where all the spawns are as a Ghostface. You know the strength of pallets, and you know, like, how to outplay them. Super fun, super macro, very interesting to watch, very fun to cast. And I think it's very fun to watch, like, from an audience perspective. I love it. And it's fun to play as a Ghostface because people don't have all these second chance perks. Like, you can count on your skill winning. Like, it's not going to be like, oh, I could have catched a survivor, but then they had deliverance and now I lose. Or this survivor had an exhaustion perk and now I can't catch them, so now I lose. And that's not very fun. But Ghostface has a lot of restrictions because he's a low tier. So it's really fun. I like Ghostface matches. Chucky, he's new. He's very new. And from what I've seen in comp, he's unfun. Like, he's not fun, which is not surprising, I don't think, because his power is just generally unfun. He can go underneath safe pallets as Scamper in his power. He is stealthy for, like, no reason. I don't know why he's, like, they gave him, like, a very bad stealth power, but it still can catch you out. And then his power is so hard to outplay unless you're in a very, very, very cluttered area. So what I've seen from him in comp, people put him in Hawkins, which is, like, not a very fun map, like, to start with, because it's full of, like, the most playable tiles ever. But the thing is, in comp, like, a lot, like, what tends to happen is that there's, like, huge ping issues. So you just lose every single 50-50. You don't play pallets, which is, like, Hawkins' whole deal is that you have to play pallets. But you can't, because, like, ping. And then you've got this guy who just goes underneath, like, all the safe pallets anyway. And his power is just, like, if you hold W, you will die. So there's just, like, no counterplay. It's all macro, and it's on a very unfun map, and it's very stealthy. And, like Ghostface is just the better version of Chucky. Like, it's just so much more fun. Chucky in comp is just unfun. Maybe, like, in the future when they adjust his balancing and maybe Dead by Daylight does some, like, tweaks to his base kit, maybe, then I'd change him. But right now, he's just unfun. He's not horrible, but he's just... I don't think anybody's going to be surprised when I put Hag in horrible. The strategy for playing against a Hag is just to follow her around and wipe away her traps. Basically... 2 people are always in a chase with a Hag, and 2 other people are doing gens. It's boring. You don't get to use her power, and she's weak. It's not fun. I don't want to go too much into it because, like, nobody ever picks Hag. Like, I said I can't remember the last time I saw Freddy in Hag, or Freddy in comp. I've never seen a comp game with Hag. I have never seen it. She sucks. It's not fun. Nobody likes it. Nobody picks her. It's not fun. I'm not going to even talk about this because, like, it's just, everybody agrees. Billy is peak. Billy is peak. Okay, wait, no. I'm kind of conflicted because Billy isn't strong. He's not strong in comp. And he can be kind of boring because, like, he's so good at camping that people, like, the play is to camp hooks because they can't save. It's a 1-for-1 immediately. And if you're close enough to the hook, they can't even save. So it's like, I'm just going to put him in fun. I would have put him in peak because the first chase is so extraordinarily fun to see. But, like, as soon as it gets to the part where somebody's on hook, yeah, he's just going to camp. It's kind of boring to watch. Like, he's fun and, like, to play, but he's very boring to spectate and just watch from, like, an audience perspective. I like Billy. I would put him in peak, my personal opinion, but I'm going to put him in fun just because of, like, the camping. Mid-game is very boring. Beginning and late game with Billy is really fun. Mid-game is just, like, whatever, dude. Like, not fun. All right, next we're getting to Huntress. This is controversial. You guys think so? She is so unfun in comp. She is so unfun. The only reason I pick her is because I feel like I'm very good enough where I get my downs so early that I know I will get a better result than the other team. I don't enjoy Huntress in comp. Like, I pick her a lot, but I hate it. It's not fun because it's fun for the first chase, and then it's also the same problem as Billy, but it's just not as good. Like, the first chase is so fun because it's like, oh, no pressure, let's go, we're gonna do this, and I get the down early, but then, like, she's so good at camping, and she's fucking slow. She's 110, so you can't leave the hook, unless, like, maybe a survivor is completely out of position, but then that's just so dependent. Like, good survivors will never be out of position like that. She's just so unfun. She's not fun. You're just camping. Like, a good result for a Huntress is, like, maybe 7 stages. Like, 6. That's expected. You just camp someone to death. It's just not fun. She's also very ping dependent. So if you're playing an NA team versus, like, EU, it's so unbelievably unfun for, like, the survivors. Because you just get hit around the corners. There's nothing you can do. Knight. Yeah, nobody will disagree. He's unfun to play. Very unfun. His power is so janky, and it's not cool. And he's not strong, so it's not fun for the killer. It's not fun for the survivors because he sucks. I don't even need to talk about this. I don't think anybody's gonna argue, right? He's just horrible. Nobody picks him unless you're like a fucking night main. And even then, like, wow, like, there's only so much you could do with your power. And what if it just decides to not work? Like, what if the AI just bugs out? That's so unbelievably unfun. Yeah, Knight is horrible. Not gonna get into it. I actually have been coming around to Singularity. I'm gonna be real. I think he's fun. I kind of hated him at first, but the more I'm playing and the more I'm watching, it's very interesting. It's very, very macro heavy. Like, as a Survivor team, you are just trying to pick up EMPs as much as possible to, like, body block a Survivor from possibly getting tunneled out. And it's like a team effort. It's really fun and, like, organized. And a good team is going to make it really, really difficult for you to, like, get a good result as a Singularity. And I think as a Singularity, it's really fun to place pods and, like, generators in high up places. And it feels very skillful. And, like, sometimes it can be frustrating if the Survivors are good with the EMPs. But, like, if you're a good Singularity, you already know what that's going to... You already know they're going to do that. You're already going to be placing pods. It's gonna be a fun little teleport. It's a nice little, like, back and forth. I think it's fun to watch. I think it's fun to cast. I like it. It's great. I feel like Singularity games either, like, go really bad for Survivors or really, really good, just depending on the skill. It's not, like, completely RNG. It does have some RNG factors, like where EMPs spawn, where generators spawn if they are out in the open and can be potted, like, very easily. But it's not as bad as, like, you'd think. It's really fun. I like watching it, and it's really, really fun. He's almost in peak. If like EMPs weren't so frustrating and, like, some maps can be, like, really, really dense and make it really hard for, like, the Singularity to play, I would put him in peak. But just because, like, that other factor, he's just in fun. I like him. Legion? I actually really don't fucking know. This is the only killer in the tier list where I just don't know. I'm gonna put him in mid because he has very restrictive balancing. And, like, some people really enjoy him in comp. And he seems like a very macro heavy killer, so it could be fun. But he is still, like, an M1 killer, so it's kind of a little frustrating. I don't know. I'm just putting him in mid. I don't think he's that fun, but I know he's not horrible because, like, his balancing is going to be restrictive, and he doesn't have, like, a really horrible power to, like, try to outplay. It's, like, very predictable. So he's mid. I don't know. Myers is horrible. Yeah, he's boring. His power is not very good. Sorry, Myers enjoyers. He's very gross and boring and just, like, everything that, like, Ghostface is fun is, like, he's just not fun. His power is, like, yeah, you can't body block against it like you can with Ghostface, but, like, his power is the fact that you could run out of stock on a Survivor, makes it so, like, maybe you can't get a tier 3 when you really, really need it, and you just, like, don't have your power all the time. It's really annoying. It's just, like, not fun, and his power is not that great. Sorry. I thought Myers is only allowed to scratch mirror and some turnies. But even then, like, that's just kind of boring. I don't know. Ours in comp tombstone piece. Yeah, see, and that's not fun for Survivors to play against. It's just tedious and annoying, and, like, nobody picks him because of that. I'm gonna put Nemesis in the unfun or horrible. Unfun or horrible? He's so close to being horrible, but I just don't hate him as much as I hate these guys. Like, he's not fun, don't get me wrong, but I don't think he belongs with these guys. Like, you can't sit with me. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting. Because his power is, like, on ping. It just fucking sucks on ping. Let's be real here. Nobody likes playing against an unfun looping mechanic in, like, any comp game. Or, like, against, like, high ping. And, like, the zombies can be so annoying and they're so RNG. They're so RNG. But the fact that he has like, an anti-loop means so that he's not, like, completely unfun to play, but he can be really frustrating. I don't know. He's close to being in horrible, but he's just not there. He's not at horrible, but he is close. You're walking on thin ice, buddy. Nurse is fun. Nurse is fun. She's not peak, but she's fun. At this point in time, Nurse's skill is not a factor. Her skill does not matter, but it matters. Like, does that make sense? If you are playing a Nurse set, you have to be good. You are not playing a Nurse set with a bad Nurse, or you will lose. It's just, like, her skill, it doesn't even matter because, like, if you are an insane Nurse, it doesn't matter. Your power is kind of limited now. Now that they got rid of, like, recharge add-ons, it doesn't even matter if you're, like, a god Nurse because, like, it's still gonna take you a set amount of time to down a Survivor. It's more macro than it is, like, micro now. But the thing is, you have to be a good Nurse anyway. But the thing is like her skill isn't even a factor. It's so weird. Like that's why she's not in peak. It's because she's just macro now. Because you have to have a good nurse, and then you have to have survivors who are good at playing against nurses. Because it's just like a non-factor because like her game is macro now. Because there's a lot of good nurse players and a lot of good survivor players who play well against her. So it's just like it's just not a factor anymore. She's just macro, and it's kind of fun to watch because it's all macro. Like you have to see the skill from the survivors to like survive. And she has very non-restrictive balancing because she's an S tier. So like they always have like really, really good perks. It's just I don't know. I love watching them. They're really fun. And if the survivors fuck up, it's great to see the nurse just like demolish. It's either like nurse games are like either 4K2 or like a 6 stage. It's just like there's no in between. Because nurse is strong, don't get me wrong, but you have to play so well macro to actually get a good result because of the balancing. So nurse is fun. She's not peak, don't get me wrong, because her power is just like not as good as it once was. So it's not like amazing to watch a good nurse pop off because like you're very restricted with your blink recharge. And survivors are generally just good against her now. Like people just know. And it's not like super duper hard to be good against a nurse because of like her recharge system. So she belongs in the fun. Honestly, like she's at the bottom of the fun category. She's almost mid. Just because like games are very predictable now. Oni is peak! I'm sorry. I know this might be controversial because a lot of people hate Oni, but I love Oni games. I love watching them. I'm not an Oni player for my team anymore, so I don't play them. Playing as an Oni can be really, really hard if you're a bad Oni, but if you are a good Oni, those games are so fucking fun to watch! He's always on like a really good map for like killers because he's very, very like, he's just a regular M1 killer until he gets his power. And that is just like it's such a good back and forth between like the killers and the survivors. The survivors working so hard to prevent the first hit. Like they are just working. They are chucking all those pallets. They're going to Shack. They're saying see ya like 2 seconds into the game. They're going to main building and they are humping the crap out of that. They're going to all the safe pallets and they're just chucking those down so you don't get that first hit. Once you get the first hit as Oni though, it's just like you're popping off, and a good Oni will pop off. Like they are very, very skillful. They can flick with their power, which is really fun to watch. Kind of hard for the survivors to play against, but like it's a huge macro. He's got restrictive balancing because he can be really weak, especially until he gets like his power. But then it's very interesting because like as an Oni, you don't need to camp a hook. You don't need to, but you can, and it's very fun to watch that decision making. From like an audience perspective. It's fun to watch like what an Oni will do. And when they pop off, it's so fun. It's so fun to watch. They'll just like down the entire team and it's just like, woo, let's go. That's so fun. I love Oni games. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people don't like him, but I love those games. He's picked a lot in comps. So like I say a lot of people don't like him, but equally there are a lot of people that do like him. I like him. His games always are fun. It's great. All right. Onryo. Sorry, she's unfun. She's almost horrible, to be honest. God, I might put her in horrible. Let me think about this. Okay, the only reason I'm going to keep her in unfun and not horrible is because from an audience perspective, it's really fun to watch. It's fun to watch her try to get a condemn, but it's so unfun to play. It's just like extraordinarily unfun to play. She's on Midwich, which is already an unfun map in comp, and then she just always teleports. She's just trying to get a condemn. Like, that's the best thing you could do with her power. Like, she's got nothing else. You just got to get her condemn and try to get a survivor out with it. And it's just like, whatever from the survivors. It's just tedious and it's kind of a long game. And it's fun to watch because it's like, oh yeah, we should get a condemn. This is crazy. This is fun. Built-in Mori. Ha ha ha. It's like, it's not fun to play though. It's so extraordinarily unfun to play that it has to be an unfun. Oh no, we got to the pig as well. She's horrible. She's so horrible. Oh my god. She is so RNG. Everybody always uses crate of gears, tamper timer, bag of gears. You don't ever use her chase power because like it's Midwich. Her map is Midwich, by the way. Very unfun map in general. It's kind of like a theme. Killers who are on Midwich just kind of they're not peak. I'm sorry. So like she's just she's so RNG. Like, is it going to be the last box or are you going to get your head popped against all odds? That's just annoying. And it's like, she can be kind of stealthy, so she can stealth up on you, and it feels so it's so unsatisfying to play as a survivor. And then like the pig, it's just like very basic gameplay. And then if they get to a loop where you use your power, then you just get the down. So like it's not very fun for Survivor. I'm sorry. Pumping ants is so satisfying. Yeah, for the pig. But then it feels so bad. Like, okay, so like most of the time in comp games, it's a mirror match, right? So like you play against the other team's pig, and then you play pig against their team. Imagine it's just like, oh my god, RNG made it so that my teammate got their head popped and now we lose because there is a 3v1 earlier than it was in my game. Like, that feels so unfun to win against. It's just RNG. Like, it's just sucks. Like, imagine losing a game because of RNG. That's horrible. I hate it. And it's on Midwich, which is an unfun map. I'm sorry, it's just not fun. It's not fun to watch. It's not fun to, like, have your teammate have that happen to them. It sucks. It's kind of fun to watch, like, them get a head pop, but at the same time, it's just, like, you kind of feel bad if it's just, like, well, they win because of a head pop. Like, it's not satisfying. Play games are kind of fun. I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I don't really like play games myself. I don't like playing them, but they're very macro heavy. Macro heavy are very fun because it's fun to see what survivors do in like the face of adversity. She's generally on Suffocation Pit. Sometimes I see her on Azeroth's Resting Place as well, which is, you know, another T-bone map. It's like skinny in the middle and then big on the sides. Tends to like do a gen split. The problem with Plague as well is that like if she's on Cepho Pit and you get like five generators spawning on one side, it's kind of like basically GG's from the survivors. So like that RNG can be very, very unfun to get, and it's just like the games are decided from like the very beginning. But her power is like survivors don't really get heal perks, which is fun from the Plague's perspective, and it's like it's interesting. Her power isn't an immediate down, and it's still playable at tiles, but it's like a fun back and forth. It's really fun to watch. I will say that. It's very macro heavy. It's very fun to watch. I like Plague. Yeah, there's not really much to be said about it. Like, it's very, very macro. You have to know where to cleanse and when to cleanse and do all that kind of stuff. And good teams will do really, really well, while bad teams will really, really die. She also has the problem where, like, she's good at camping as well. So, like, the mid game can be kind of slow and boring while she, like, confirms a kill. But late game, if it's a 3v1, it is so fun to watch. I love watching survivors try to break a 3-gen and, like, successfully do it. I know, like, maybe that's not fun for some people where, like, there's a 3-gen scenario and the survivors are, like, chipping away at it. I love watching that because survivors can be so good and they can be so coordinated and it's so fun to watch. Her puke also, like, it isn't a complete, like, GG and chase if she has her red puke. So that could be really fun. I don't know. I like watching the back and forth. Like, oh my god, is the survivor going to drop the pallet on my head? Am I going to have to walk through it? Are they going to make me respect it? Am I going to lose my power? It's very interesting and fun to see what, like the reads people can get off in chase. Interesting and fun. I like it. Pyramid Head is fun. He's fun. He's not peak though. And I'll tell you why. He's fun because his chase is interesting. Sometimes you just die, but like, I don't know. That happens with a lot of like good killers, like Blight, Artist, Deathslinger, Billy out in the open. Like some killers you just die, which can be kind of boring, and like his power isn't like too interesting, but like really good survivors will have you like questioning how good he really is. Like they'll be like juicing his ass at a loop and you're like, is this killer really good? Is he actually like an anti-loop character that is like extraordinarily strong? And it's fun to see what survivors can do against him. And then like his whole torment power where like people could just be sent to the cage to get around anti-tunnel perks is fun and interesting. And like sometimes, you know, like the strongest Gen 7 perks in the game are Pop Goes a Weasel and Pain Res. And to get those, you have to hook. So will the Pyramid Head even like send people to the cage? Will he chop them or will he get like his Pain Res or his Pop? It's very interesting. And I love the back and forth between survivors and the killer. They're very fun to watch. And like if he gets a really fun like Trail of Torment like activation, it's so interesting. And I love watching like the survivors juice like a good Pyramid Head. It's so fun. It's so fun. And I don't know, like, it's probably not super fun to play against, but I don't know. It's interesting. I like it, and I really like him. And he does get picked like kind of fairly often. He's not picked as much as like Plague or like Artist or something. He's kind of picked like just as much as I would say like Cenobite is, but he's still interesting, and I like him. I think because he's so fun to watch, he's in fun. If he wasn't so fun to watch, he would be mid. Like, absolutely. Because, like, playing against him is not entirely the most fun. And sometimes, like, playing as him isn't that most fun. Because, like, survivors will drop and they will be really good at dodging your Trail of Torment. But, like, a really good Pyramid Head is fun as hell to watch. Because, like, he will get some crazy hits. And the survivors will sometimes dodge those crazy hits. And it's, like, a really interesting back and forth. And he's just, like, very macro as well. So it's, like, really interesting. And it's not, like, a completely boring set like a Legion would be. So he's fun. I'm going to put him in fun. I don't know if like other people will agree. He might be more towards mid, but like I said, I think audience perspective is very important in like my tier list. So yeah, I put him in fun. Skull Merchant is horrible. Nobody's gonna fight me on this. Nobody plays Skull Merchant. At the peak of her picks and comp, she was straight up a 3-gen killer. And I'll be real, like I said earlier, I love watching survivors break 3 gens, but this is the most tedious way to do it. And it always takes ya 45 minutes. And like, it's just like not fun to play against. It's so horrible. It's not fun to play as either. Like you just kick a gen and you place a drone. Like that's just most of what she did. And like, I saw one game of her being played after her like rework where she like gets stealth after dropping a drone, and it was on Larry's, and it was so just a mess. It was a mess. Not fun. 0 out of 10. 1 out of 10 because it's fun to watch people break 3 gens, but 0 out of 10 for the gameplay. And it just takes so long. You like falling asleep just watching it. Spirit is, let me think. She's not peak. She's either fun or mid. I don't know. I want to be biased and put her in fun. I think she's like teetering between fun and mid. And I'll give like all my reasons. Spirit is actually kind of hard to like categorize because one, she's an S tier. She's very strong in chase, but that also means survivors get a lot of like perks available. So she is the weakest of the S tiers. Like I think in a good comp match with good balancing, she should never 4K. That's kind of like deterring me from being down to mid because it doesn't matter how good of a spirit you are, you will just never 4K if you're going against a good enough team because they have like good perks and shit. You're just kind of like fighting for the best result, and really realistically you should never 4K. She's like, yeah, like you said, she's like bottom of fun, top of mid. I'm gonna put her in fun just because she's picked a lot. That's kind of like a huge factor. A lot of people love to do spirit games. A lot of people like to play her. She's very skill-based. Very, very skill. She's like Nurse, where like the skill of you shouldn't even matter because you should be a top-tier spirit. But like, even to that point, more people are better at Nurse than they are at spirit. So like, if you have an insane spirit on your team, you're probably going to win. Mostly because like, it's hard to outplay a good spirit, but you can. It's easier to outplay a good spirit than it is to outplay like a good Nurse. So like you have to be kind of like top tier to like get the best result as a spirit. Like skill matters more in a spirit game than it does in a Nurse game. So like she's fun. People pick her a lot. Because she's an S tier, she gets very non-restricted balancing, so it can be kind of annoying to like lose to perks. Like she gets Deliverance a lot. She gets like Unbreakable, DS, all the exhaustions. So it could be a little bit frustrating playing as her. And then like as a survivor, it's not really fun to just die because the spirit is good. But like, you know, she's usually like Wrecker's Yard, so you generally have like some safe pallets. You've got the shack, of course, is always gonna have shack pallet. And then like Crane can spawn. Then sometimes like it doesn't spawn and that feels really bad. So like it's kind of RNG heavy. Wreckers tends to not spawn 3 gens as much. Like they can spawn a 3 gen, but like you're generally going to be breaking that like immediately. So like spirit games are just like, I think they're fun to watch too, because I love watching a good spirit like phase run on top of Survivor. You're just like, oh my god, that was so insane. You're so good. You're hacking. Like that's fun, but not exactly the most fun to play against. But I'm still going to put her up there because she's macro heavy to the point where it's like, It's mostly about macro, mostly. And I love macro games because it shows like the better teams will always win. Spirit is fun versus because it tested coordination. Yeah. Like exactly. It's so much fun. Like the top killers are just like the most macro heavy killers in the game. It's so fun. The top team will always win. It's not like RNG is going to get you the win, like maybe like a Dredge one. But like always the better team will always come out on top. Trapper is gonna be. I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna put him in unfun. He's not horrible. Because everybody knows Trapper is like the worst. He's the worst of the worst. He's not strong. He's so bad that people tend to give him goofy balancing just for like funny reasons. And I think that's fun to watch as an audience. But like he's just so close to being horrible because he's not strong. He generally does like basement strategies, but like one time in DBD League, they had him on RPD and it was so interesting to watch. It's so fun to watch. That's the only reason I'm not putting him in horrible, because he's so extraordinarily weak that he's fun to just watch. He's not fun to play, don't get me wrong. He's horrible to play. You just like, you place a trap, there's gonna be another survivor that always just like snaps it. Like they're always so coordinated, they're never gonna step in a trap. So it's just so fun to watch because he's so bad. Yeah, it's just goofball. It's just like the only reason he's not horrible is because he's just like, he's just silly. Like nobody picks him because he's so bad. I mean, you watch it and you're like, okay, I gotta watch this Trapper game. Like, I'm gonna watch this top team play Trapper. Let's see if he can actually 4K. Let's see if he can get more than 1 kill. It's interesting. Yeah, that's the only reason he's an unfun. Moving on, Trickster. Horrible. He's terrible, horrible, not very fun. His chase is very, very, very unfun. I don't know how he is now that he's 115. Maybe he's stronger, but he's not fun to play against. Like, he's that level of anti-loop unfunness that, like, your chase doesn't matter. And then, like, before when he was 110, you just couldn't leave hooks like Huntress. So, like, you just kind of stood in your hook and you got your 6 stages. Wow, great, fun. That's fantastic. You just count on survivor mistakes because you're not strong. Yeah, he's not even fun to play. He's just horrible. Not fun to play, not fun to play against, not fun to watch from an audience perspective because, like, I'm gonna just, like, I'm gonna say, I don't think I've seen a Trickster match now that he's 115. I'm just basing this off of whenever he was slower, like 110% speed. Not very fun to watch either. 0 marks in all categories. We're just moving on. Twins. Y'all are gonna hate me for this one. You're not gonna agree. Twins is peak. Twins is peak comp. It is so fun. I love Twins games. I love them because they're so macro heavy. They are probably the most macro heavy killer in comp. I love them. It is so fun to watch. But it, like, okay. I will say, pub games is terrible with Twins. Nobody likes Twins, but they're so fun in comp because, like, the survivors know how to outplay a good, like, Twins, and it's just, like, it's so macro. Like, you have to, like, the way to play against the Twins is that you have people stick in pairs, and then, like, if they're getting chased by Victor and they get downed, you just got, like, you got your buddy right there to kick Victor and, like, kill him, and, like, you just try to reset, and it's, like, they can be really slow and tedious, but it's just, like, shows really, it's really, really skillful. It's so skillful. Like, this is the most skillful killer, I think. If whatever team is better will absolutely win. They will absolutely win. And there's just, like, very little RNG factor that goes into a Twins game, except for, like, if you get bugged. But that's, like, we're not counting those games. Like, Twins can be really frustrating if you get a bug. But, like, yeah, we're not going to count those games because obviously that's just, like, not intended. Twins games, like, both skillful from each side, is so fun to watch because they're so good, and there's just, like, so many little things you could do, like Victor. Like, if you are far away from across the map from a Twins and they have Victor on you, you don't want to get down. Like, if you can't pick yourself up, you're gonna hop into a locker because Charlotte cannot physically get over to you in time to pick you out of the locker, right? So you just, like, stole Victor and you're just, like, stalling. She's an M1 killer across the map, but she can't do anything about it. And that's so interesting. And, like, survivors can do body blocks. They can just, like, stick in pairs. It's so fun to watch. So fun. Peak gameplay. Peak comp. Love it. Sucks to play against Twins in public games, but it's fun in comp. Wesker is also peak. He's peak. He's so fun. Wesker is very high skill cap killer. And it matters because he can leave hooks. He's not like Huntress. Like, Huntress has a high skill cap, but she can't leave hooks, so she's stuck camping. But this guy, he's got a great power to use and chase. It's very interesting. You can do, like, some silly hug tech stuff, and that's like, if you pull it off in a comp setting where you get, like, a really fun hug tech, that is just, like, so fun to watch from an audience perspective. It's so fun. Like, if you see somebody you're just like in chat, you're like, rah, whoa, you're the goated Wesker in comp, so good. It's so fun. There's so many silly things you could do with this power. And he's always got like good balancing. He's always on Cold Tower, which is a good map for him. And like, he's very skill based as well, to the point where like, it's not like unheard of for a Wesker to get a really shitty result, but also 4K. Like, he 4Ks, but then he also gets like maybe like 3 stages. He like gets 1 kill and like nothing else. And it's so skill based, and it's so interesting and fun. And it's not like it's impossible for him to tunnel. Like, tunneling is always good, like easy to do with him. If like the survivor on the hook is infected, they can't spray because they're chasing them, and then they will get hindered, and eventually they will die. So like, it's not unbearable to watch from like a survivor perspective, because eventually the chase does end. So it's not like just like, oh my god, this is so cringy, I can't watch. It gets to the point where like, yeah, the chase will end against a Wesker. So it's just not like he will absolutely get a 3 stage, but sometimes that does happen, and it's so fun to watch. I love Wesker games. Totally peak, very skill based, very macro heavy, and he's always got like good balancing and always on good maps. It's fun. Like, he's peak in comp. Seeing a good Wesker pull off an insane bound dash is amazing to watch. Yeah, like, you'll sit here and you'll be like, whoa, this Wesker is so good, and the survivors didn't juke him. And it's like not impossible to juke either. So that's really fun. I love it. Wesker games are peak, man. Wraith is also peak. He's also peak. Very skill based, very macro. He tends to be on Dead Dog Saloon, which isn't like a free win for him, because there also are like really, really good loops. There's Main Building, there's Shack, there's Gallows that has like really good loops. Sometimes like Water Tower and the tile next to it can like waste a lot of your time. So it's not like a free win for the Wraith. You have to be good as a Wraith. You have to play very, very macro, because like there's such strong loops in that map that if you're caught chasing a survivor for super long, you will lose. But like, you have to know that as like the Wraith. You have to play very micro and very macro. Like, you can do hit and run like Soppy Butcher. The survivors will tend to run to main, but maybe you've got Bamboozle, so main isn't a problem. But it's still like a huge waste of your time. It's very micromanagey, and it's very fun and interactive. Very fun to watch. Like, Dead Dog Saloon, Wraith, sometimes you get away with not even running Corrupted Invention, because that's like a really strong perk that almost every killer uses in comp. And if you don't, that is so interesting and fun to watch. Like, you're basically not restricted to just running 3 perks. Like, basically almost every killer runs Corrupted Invention. I would say like 99.999% of the time people will run Corrupted Invention, except in Dead Dog Saloon Wraith games, which is so fun. I love those games. Those are fun to watch. They're fun to play. It feels very satisfying to win those games. It feels like not unfair, because like his power isn't anti-loop, it's just like good. So it's kind of like, it's a really strong, like, so sometimes it can be a little frustrating, but it's not like overpowering. It's not unfair. So yeah, Wraith is peak. Everybody picks him a lot. He's fun. He's very, very good at showing the skill of each side. The better survivors will win. There is some RNG. Like, Dead Dog can spawn like a lot of pallets. There's not like a system to prevent like too many pallets from spawning, and like it's not like a money system where like the strength of pallets is determined. So like, it can be a little RNG, especially if like a Wraith holds a 3-gen at Gallows, but that is also up to the servers to break that. So like, it is slightly RNG, but it's also very skill based. It's like the less RNG of like the most RNG kind of things. It's like the bottom of the list where like that matters, but he's still very fun to watch. He's fun to play. He's very macro. It's just good all around. And we got our last killer, which is Xenomorph. I like Xenomorph, but he's very mid. He is a very, very macro killer, because his looping is basically like, you just don't loop a Xenomorph. But, you have to be very, very coordinated with your teammates in order to use the turrets, because you just don't loop. Like I said, you don't loop a Xenomorph. You don't. He's just like, he's an anti-loop killer, and a good Xenomorph will have you down, especially if ping is a factor in chases. If you're going like NA to EU, you're just gonna die against a Xenomorph and his power. But if you are well coordinated with your team, you will do better, because you need to have really good turret placements. You need to have like turrets to be able to break him out. Like, if you use 2, you're absolutely going to break him out, but they need to be placed in such a way where like he can't just break them. It's very like, it's tedious kind of, and you need to work so hard to make sure your tunnel out doesn't happen, Because a 3v1 against a Xeno is just GG's. It's over. Like, you don't win. Because, like, you need somebody placing turrets. And, like, as in a 3v1, you just don't have the time, right? Like, you've got one person on hook, you've got one person going for unhook, and you've got a person doing gens. And, like, you do all that back and forth, kind of. And if you don't have time to place turrets, then he's always in crawler mode, so your chases just, like, end immediately. And if when it gets to the 3v1 as well, you've gone through all the safe pallets because you tend to use safe pallets early to prevent a first kill. So, like, it's, like, that whole back and forth can be very unfun. It's not very fun to play for survivors because of, like, that aspect of it where, like, you're just desperately trying to prevent the 3v1. And then also, you have to be really, really coordinated, which can be fun. But, like, his power is so unbelievably hard to play against, especially with ping, that he just can't be fun. I can't put him in the fun tier. He's very mid. He's fun to play as, I will say that. Can be frustrating if the survivors are very, very good. So, like, he's slightly unfun in that aspect. But he's very fun to watch. I'll be honest. Like, he's very fun to watch because it's very macro, where, like, the survivors have to be really good with the turret placements. So, like, it's fun to see, like, good survivors outplay a good xenomorph, and a good xenomorph getting some, like, good tail hits, and you're just like, oh, dude, that was insane. That was so cool. But, yeah, like, not the most fun to play. Not the most fun. That's, like, the whole tier list. That's all the killers in Dead by Daylight. That's how I rank them in comp. I do realize that, like, maybe some people would place these in other, like, positions. Like, some people would probably put, like, Xeno in the horrible list. I don't put him there because I think he's very fun to watch. Like, some people would probably put, they would probably rank, like, the strong killers in the horrible because, like, sometimes the outcome is very predictable if it's a really good killer, or, like, very predictable if the survivors are going to be really, really good. But audience, like, weighs very heavily in this. Like, the amount of fun it is to watch those games very heavily influences this. I just, like, and I do take other people's opinions into account with this one. Actually, there's a lot less mid killers than I thought there would be. But yeah, it's my tier list, guys. I'm probably gonna make it into a YouTube video. So, like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think. Let me know if you agree or disagree, or if you think I'm just blabbing and I don't know what I'm talking about.